The town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. And with that, we will call this regular council meeting for March 5th, 2024 to order. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Council, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening? And Secretary, can you confirm nothing from Councillor Chambers? I can't see her on the screen. Thank you. CO Panasic, any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening?
Yes, through the mayor to members of council. Item 10.1, the CAO performance review, that is to be pushed to the next committee of the whole meeting, so that item can be deleted.
Excellent. Thank you, CO Panasic. So Councillor Haas. Try that again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adopt the agenda, regular agenda for March 5th, regular council meeting as amended, please.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is the council adopt the agenda for March 5th as amended. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is council minutes for adoption. Councillors? Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adopt a regular meeting of council minutes for February 20th, 2024, and the committee of the whole minutes for February 27th, 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is that council adopt the minutes from the regular council meeting, February 20th, 2024, and the committee of the whole meeting, February 27th, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Brings us to section 4 of the agenda, Citizens Minute with Council. Minute with Council provides an opportunity where residents can address council regarding issues, events, celebrations, or concerns. To ensure a constructive and welcoming environment, please adhere to the following guidelines. Keep your remarks concise, limited to 1 minute. Address the chair of the meeting when speaking to council. Avoid asking questions as this is not a Q&A session, and maintain a respectful tone and language. Abusive or aggressive behavior will not be tolerated. Mr. Kwasny, you're first on the list.
You know who I am. I don't think I have to introduce myself.
Please do introduce yourself once again for the record. Thank you, Mr. Kwasny.
I've just got a short item today.
Thank you.
Responding to recent, whoops, I got it mixed up. I guess I should do my papers in order before I come in here. You know what? I haven't got it with me.
That's a shame. Wrong stack of papers.
The have time to sort it out. Something, eh? Probably on the desk.
That's how she goes.
By God, I haven't got it, Your Honor. I haven't got it.
That's okay, Mr. Quasny. Well,
Anyway, if I could remember what I was gonna ask, but I can't even remember that. So I better not start asking questions unless I got them in order. So, I'm sorry I haven't got it.
that's okay, Mr. Quasny. I'll give you a call tomorrow and we can talk about the questions,
Okay.
okay?
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Wilf. Is there anyone else in the audience today who would like to speak for a minute with Mayor? Hello, how are you today?
Thank you.
Wonderful.
My name's Kate Cardinal. And keep it short. I would like to thank you, for honoring our Treaty 6 territory, more than 50 nations strong. Hi. I'm Kate Cardinal, a proud Cree, giver of life, keeper of the water, Nippy, and a caretaker of Mother Earth, Turtle Island. I brought our sacred tobacco to offer you. It's called Kinnikinnick. It was smoked in our peace pipes by all of our forefathers at the signing of the treaties. This powerful medicine is disappearing along with our forests and our water. I ask you to think of our grandchildren as we move forward. And I ask you all to bring your attention to what is currently happening in Ireland. The immigrant population has exploded by more than 40% in many communities. The people are rioting because of the food shortages and the housing shortages, right? This was not pre-planned by the governments, you know, and we ask you to consider, as we move ahead, the safety, security, and protection of our people. There are many who believe that this PARB 99 development is a takeover, just the start of a takeover. And while many of my favorite people in this town happen to be East Indians, no, I am very concerned. So I'd ask you all, please, watch what is going on in Ireland, all right? It is not too late for you to reverse bylaws or zoning. And consider our position. We have asked for clarity and transparency, and we want you to consider our safety. There are many homeless people here in our community that need your attention. We can all work together there for a better way for everyone, especially our grandchildren and 7 generations to come. Hi. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Cardinal. Is there anyone else in the audience today that would like to speak for a minute with the mayor? Secretary, is there anyone online today that would like to speak for a minute with mayor?
No, there's none.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to section 5 of our agenda today, delegations and presentations. And item 5.1, Technology Alberta, presented by Gail Powley. I'd like to take a moment to introduce Ms. Powley, and for my fellow councillors, I first met Technology Alberta and Gail roughly 5 years ago when at the Undergraduate Artificial Intelligence Society at the U of A, I was working to get students, these brilliant young minds, jobs in the tech industry. A lot of them were working in fast food during the evenings and working on AI during the day, and I thought that was crazy. I met Technology Alberta and Gail and had the opportunity to advise on their first jobs program. And in the time since I first met this organization, they've gotten first jobs in industry for over 700 technology students here in Alberta. It's been a fantastic program. In that time, I've also seen them advise and support numerous entrepreneurs and tech businesses within Alberta, and I believe in what they do. And with that, Ms. Powley, please go ahead.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to speak to you all today, and thank you for the opportunity and a little bit on Technology Alberta and our First Jobs program. FIRST stands for First Industry Research Science and Technology Jobs Program, and that happened during COVID. So we were able to rally the province to actually provide jobs for students that could have left the province. And it's a virtual program, and we were able to, as an industry association, call on the province's tech companies, hundreds of them, to offer that opportunity within 2 weeks. So that's the kind of reach we have across the province. And it was open to students and still is open to students in whether it's Hinton or Jasper or Fort McMurray or Red Deer or Edmonton or Calgary. So when that was first offered, we only were given $100,000 and so we gave $2,000 to 50 companies, including Discover Coding, who you'll hear from later today. And with that, there were 500 students who applied for those 50 jobs. And I went to the government of Alberta and I said, I'm happy we got jobs for 50, but there are over 400 that still need jobs. And then the government of Alberta Advanced Education gave us $1.5 million to continue the program for another 3 years. And then the federal government gave us $2 million to continue it to reach that 750. So that's the way that we can work with students, post-secondaries, communities across the province, entrepreneurs and government to do great things together. And what I see on the horizon, and there's an appetite in government to actually work more with rural communities and with potential, who have an appetite for their youth, to help their companies. And that is why Technology Alberta is here today. So with that, we have some idea being shown around the city, and actually being born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta, spending a lot of time in Jasper and more time in Hinton. And with my colleague who's from Canmore, we're seeing a lot of commonalities between both cities and the opportunities where, especially when Canmore is being overpriced, and Hinton is the future. Together with that, I am an engineer by training. I've applied advanced control technologies in pulp and paper mills around the world, as well as refineries. And the company I started with, well, I started with Procter & Gamble, but I worked with smaller companies afterwards. 5-person company that grew to 25 and became a world leader, and putting in advanced control technologies in large facilities around the world. So a 25-person company can become a world leader. Imagine how many world-leading companies you can have here in Hinton when you have the right ingredients like you do. So with that, I am a supporter of the underdog, of small companies, of towns, of students, and knowing that we can do anything if we work on it together. So with that, let's just see, am I advancing? Who needs a PowerPoint anyways?
Arrows?
The arrows are not moving. It is frozen. That's just fine. So we were talking about Canmore. Maybe it's the mouse. That's okay. So talking about youth, thank you. So our focus is to partner to support Pan-Alberta growth. Our focus areas are talent, knowledge, and community. And with knowledge, it's both knowledge and learning. We told you a little bit about our talent programs. And then when we do programs, we actually capture insights and learning so that they can scale, whether it's in your town or in other towns. And, very quickly, Hinton can Hinton can actually become the example for other towns. And vice versa. Obviously, we can bring in insights from other towns and other cities from across the province. I've had a chance to talk to a couple of people about, and in fact, this pamphlet has been handed out. It talks about the Aztec Awards. Technology Alberta leads the Alberta Science Technology Leadership Awards, and it actually is the Academy Awards of Science, Technology, and Leadership, bringing together government, industry, academia, and entrepreneurs. And so world leaders in AIs, in artificial intelligence from the University of Alberta, space sciences from University of Calgary, agriculture, life science, scientists, and tech companies are featured. And they come together every year, November 1st. Edmonton one year, Calgary the next. It's coming in Edmonton this year. Whenever it goes to Calgary on a Friday night, afterwards, people go to Canmore for the weekend. I'm suggesting that this year, November 1st, when it comes to Edmonton, that people come to Hinton and Jasper for the after party or the reception or whatever the town wants to be part of. So with that, there's an opportunity for us to bring community here physically, and then with our social media reach of 20,000 across the province, virtually. So I know I'm covering a lot of information. Someone's going to have to give me whether I reach the 10 minutes, but there's so much opportunity here to actually work with youth to bring your businesses online, to actually bring them visible to whether it's visitors who are coming by Hinton through Jasper, or whether it's people across the province that are looking for innovation, and that they actually see destinations like Hinton on their radar. So a lot of this background reading that was previously provided was just showing how similar the paths of Canmore and Hinton are, and that and Canmore has become a town that attracts professionals, and with that professional economy of consultants can become a more diverse economy, and so that can be the future for Hinton. And then we also have an initiative called Small Towns, Big Ideas. And it's talking about how small towns are more nimble, and how they can be adopters of new ideas of technology from tech entrepreneurs, and then thus be a first customer, but also a showcase customer. And then with that, you can actually be the role model for the larger cities and government organizations, and the difference that we want to see in this province. So with that, I think I'll leave the rest for another day. And welcome any questions, or please, the next speaker, perhaps.
Thank you, Ms. Powley. And council, any questions for Ms. Powley? Nothing online. Councillor Chambers. Thank you very much, Gail.
Pleasure.
Our next delegation is Discover Coding, presented by Jennifer Lamb.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Lamb. I'm the founder and head instructor of Discover Coding. Our mission is to set kids up with 21st century skills, inspire and foster their interests in coding and technology education to create code and technology to help the world. I want to inspire them to create with code and technology rather than just consume it. So I just wanted to share a little bit about my personal story into starting, just going into computer sciences and my curiosity about the web and technology growth. And hopefully you guys could kind of relate, because I really went into this program not knowing anything about what the web was about, what technology was about, but I was really curious about it because it was growing so rapidly. And I saw like websites coming up, you can start buying things online. And so I went to computer science program, just curious, and took a few programs, and I learned it was so much more than just coding. It was really learning these problem solving skills, taking really complex ideas that I kind of see all over the world. And how do you move large amounts of people or large amounts of information and make it into these manageable problems? This is why I realized I learned in code through learning to code, going through the computer science program at the University of Alberta. Um, and I really saw the potential, and this was kind of late 90s, early 2000s. I really saw the potential of how code could really touch every industry. Um, you don't have to be just a computer science or scientist or a software engineer, but it touches, you know, dance, culture, um, uh, medical industry, accounting. Like everybody has a device or an app to help them in their industry. And so it really appealed to me that whatever interests you have, we can use code and technology to express ourselves or make things easier, communicate things in a different way so it can be more accessible to other people, either through websites or through apps in different languages. And it's really wonderful to see that the Alberta curriculum updates, the recent updates are recognizing the importance of these coding skills, these problem solving skills, and it's already being integrated into our curriculum. So I just want to emphasize, you know, coding is really just learning like a second language, like learning French, learning Cree, or learning Chinese. And with learning a second language, there's a lot of research backing. When you learn it younger, you absorb it a lot better. And that's what we're seeing with kids. And that's why I see a lot of schools starting to teach it as well. Some of this is a summary, but this is coding is really just a tool of an expression. What our goal here is to really spark some interest, and kids are naturally drawn to video games, apps, their phones are constantly consuming it. And we want to turn it around, get them to see how can they create with code and technology to produce something that can help their community, create a game that entertains their friends or their family members, or have a different way of presenting a topic in school. So we teach kids ages 5 to 18. You can learn these skills even earlier. And we have adults even curious about what coding is. So had a lot of adults even come to us and ask us if we teach it. And I definitely encourage our kids to show their parents, teach their grandparents how to code. And so it's really great to see how, you know, these kids are empowered with this skill that it comes a lot easier to them and sharing it with their elders. And we really wanted to hit it at an age where kids are most creative and innovative. They're unfiltered and they see the world in a different lens. So even through the way we teach, it's all very project oriented. How can they create something that they can showcase or they can utilize? And it really helps build confidence in kids. And they're building some of these future skills that they can use in the future for their jobs. So this is a really great just summary of just the benefits of teaching coding. It's very inclusive and builds confidence. We work with a lot of ESL students. We've worked in schools with Indigenous students coming in who are new to the public system. And because coding the grammar is so simple, a lot of them gain confidence learning coding because the rules are very strict and simple, and it empowers them that they can code and they can make a game, they can make an app. So it's a huge benefit just to build that self-confidence. It aligns with so many other subjects from mathematics and sciences. And like I said, it's a tool that you can use to showcase any of your work in school. and we emphasize a lot of problem solving and critical and analytical thinking skills here. Aside from that, a little bit of background about myself. I did complete computer science program at the University of Alberta and went to continue on to work all across Canada, working with the Canadian Space Agency and space agencies all over the world, creating space and space imaging satellite systems. And I also worked with IBM. And both my husband and I both worked in the tech industry, and we have this huge love for Alberta. And we saw a lot of our peers moving away, who graduated from the University of Alberta, who had renowned known professors. They were all moving away from Alberta, and it was really sad to hear because we really loved Alberta, and we had to move away to get to these interesting jobs. But we had really built a home in Alberta, and so we moved back, and we wanted to find a way to make some changes here. And this was before I met Technology Alberta, and we were like, well, how do we retain talent here? How do we spark more interest in Alberta? And that's how we started to partner with Technology Alberta, because they really had a similar vision. So we see ourselves as a little cog in hopefully retaining the talent in Alberta and creating jobs and companies here. So with that knowledge, I was also motivated to learn how kids learn and create. So I've also have an education background. I've actually been in it for most of my life, but I also want to make sure I really understood it with an education degree. So understanding kids, meeting kids where they're at, and designing a program where we can create a space, a safe space that can empower and nurture their skills is really important to me, where they can create their own games, stories, and websites and apps. So this is just a recap of our mission, just to get them to be creators of technology. And working with Technology Alberta, you know, some of our kids, we've been in this business for about over 6 years now, and we've had some of our students come back as volunteers, come back as instructors. And we've seen some of our instructors who worked with us who were able to get a huge foothold into amazing jobs like Amazon or working for a big bank like Royal Bank, you know, bring their skills, because what we add as this company is we teach how to communicate as well. And learning, teaching kids coding is a great way for our engineers and software developers to learn to code. So we kind of see a pathway of helping support our future job seekers with more skills so that they can maybe create jobs here or stay here. And we've hired so many great people from Technology Alberta. Why rural Alberta? So I do have some experience working with different parts of rural Alberta. We brought our programs into Grand Prairie, taught over 700 kids there through government funded programs. We were in over 25 classes. We brought our programs into Busby and Westlock. And so what really worked was that we worked closely with schools, especially with such a new program. A lot of kids, parents, even some administrators, this is such a new skill, and we bring our experts. Our instructors have a lot of passion. They are pursuing this industry, or they have completed their degrees and they just love sharing their passion. So we bring that into the class, and it really does spark that interest. We help overcome any kind of technological problems and get kids to be okay with things falling apart and learning how to problem solve it together. I also see kids, some of our students, initiating coding clubs in their schools. And a lot of our students have become tech support for their families, for their communities, and even in school. I have 2 kids, and my 10-year-old was tech support during the pandemic to all of his teachers. It was quite hilarious, but it's a story here time and time again through our students that they help their teacher do this, they help their principal fix something on their laptop. And it's just so empowering to set these kids up with these skills and create a space for them to do that as well. So I do see a lot of potential for kids to learn these skills and contribute to the community. And hopefully we can create a long-term program here as their skills increase so that we can create more, maybe bring more bring websites into your local communities, get high school students to build them, or maybe even start to build e-commerce sites, and, hopefully we don't need Amazon anymore. There's a lot of value the community offers that our students can support them through. So, sorry, somebody may have to flag. Oh, this is the time. I just want to show you quickly. This was done by a grade 8 female student of ours. She created a website about the eyes. She has a huge interest in becoming an optometrist in the future. And it's just, this is a grade 8 student. So amazing to see. I'm curious to see, what can high school students at Hinton do for their local businesses, This is some highlights from our Grand Prairie schools. When we walk into schools, it's like being Santa Claus because we tell the kids bring out the devices and they get to work on the devices. We also bring in little like microprocessors, like little computers with LED lights and buttons, and they get to program it and make it do things and build a game onto it. And here we're teaching them how to build a computer. This is part of tech support. If something's wrong with your laptop, understand that the literacy that goes into can you be a better consumer of technology when you understand the parts of it. This is Prince Charles School in Edmonton. It's an Indigenous school. So we do a lot, especially through our government grant programs. We do try to reach out to a lot of underrepresented schools. And this is Ryan Janvier. He's one of our former instructors, but I can bring him out anytime. He is a tech entrepreneur, and he's Indigenous himself and services a lot of Indigenous businesses. So we bring him to highlight to our students and hopefully relate to students a bit more about his journey through his career. And here's kids building computers. They call themselves computer surgeons. And this is our team. We have a few more members that aren't on here, but my call to action to all of you is I'm a very curious person and I like to understand who I'm working with. So my contact information is here. I would like to hear from anybody, counselors, parents, teachers, administrators, and understand what interests, what would you like to see Hinton bring, and see if we can meet those needs through our programs, through our after school programs, in school programs and camps. And does anybody have any questions?
Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jen, very much. So how often would you go out to a community and do maybe a weekend session just to get the students excited about this?
So that is a good question. For example, in Grand Prairie, it was a government funded program. We went out for that one, we went out for 4 months. So we actually send our instructors out there for 4 months. We are kind of, that's why we wanted to talk to the community, because we were thinking of doing some pilot programs, maybe work with the youth council here, maybe create some websites, the community calendar, and then work with the high schools to bring out some of our programs to get high school students to create websites and connect them to local communities. So that would be about a 2-month program. And if we're in high schools, then we can also bring some of our programs to the elementary and junior high schools as well. I'm also connected to the library, so we could bring programs there. So it'd be so that it'll be most worth it for our instructors to come for those few months' time and see how the needs change, and we can, establish a longer term program.
So one more question, please.
Please.
So is the funding typically grant funding, or do you ever require money from the municipality?
No, it depends. We've worked with Rupert's Land Institute. I believe there's they receive grants through different means. So and when we work with schools after school programs, the cost goes to the parents. So we've done all different models, and so whatever kind of fits into your community. But if it's a new program, I would the most success has been working in the schools first, build up that interest. At least they have some basis of what coding, problem solving skills there are, and then we can grow after school programming camps once they know what the possibilities are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, any other questions? Anything from Councillor Chambers? Thank you very much,
Thank you for
Ms.
your
Lang.
time.
And that will bring us to section 6 of our agenda this evening, action items. And item 6.1, Hinton Attraction and Retention Committee appointment. CAO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So I am presenting this today for council to appoint, and we're recommending 2 members to the Hinton Attraction and Retention Committee. This stems back from late 2023, where we have set aside approximately 7,000 in funding for this committee. We have had these discussions numerous times throughout the last year related to our challenges related to healthcare professionals in the community and the need to establish a formalized body to take a look at this issue. So this is in partnership with the Hinton Healthcare Foundation, with RPAP and a number of different public members. At this point in time, we're recommending 2 members. The terms of reference for this committee, once again, they are not set. We hope that our representatives from the town would be involved in helping to establish those parameters. So the appointments, how many and who sits on that board could change over time. But at this point in time, we want to ensure that we have representation from the town around that table for the upcoming March meeting. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, CAO Panasiuk. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to take the recommended action and move that council appoint Councillor Race and Mayor Neeson to the Hinton Attraction and Retention Committee, HARC, for the term to October 2024. And just, if I may speak to that briefly, very happy to be able to make the motion. I think this is just one of those steps that we've seen as being very important in the community. And then especially I'd like to thank Councillor Race, because I think she's been very tireless in pursuing this over many, many months. So I think it's a very appropriate nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. So council, the motion on the floor is the council appoint Councillor Race and Mayor Nissen to the Hinton Attraction and Retention Committee for the term to October 2024. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. That brings us to item 6.2 on our agenda this evening, Water Main Rehabilitation Project, CAO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor. I will turn this over to Mr. McLaughlin.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for hearing this item today. We discussed this at the last committee of the whole, so I've already briefed you, but for those who weren't at that meeting, we had a large leak on our Switzer water line last year. We spent considerable dollars repairing it, roughly probably around $100,000. and we saw our volumes of water drop dramatically for a couple of months, and then the water volumes went back up. We had some people come out and help us look for leaks on the line again. They indicated that there was probably another 3 leaks. And so this line is going to continue to cause us problems unless we take action. And so what we're recommending is that we engineer repair to the line by lining the inside of the line. And so for that, we're looking at spending $140,000 on engineering over the course of the project. And we will tender the project, but which is now estimated to be $1.7 million. We would hope that we could actually get the work done this year, which is why we're bringing this to you ahead of midterm adjustments. And the money would come from reserves as outlined in the report. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. McLaughlin, what lifespan does the lining give us on those lines? Just out of curiosity.
Well, it's still pretty recent technology, and it really does depend on the quality and the install that you get. And there is different products out there, so we'd be looking at through the design. But there has been cases where it has extended the line by up to 50 years.
Okay, if I may follow
Go
up.
ahead.
And what kind of warranty does the company provide on this lining, that if it blows, who's responsible, dig it up, fix it? What does that look like?
Again, that's something we'll have to explore through the design as we look at it. Different manufacturers of these linings need different access to the pipe. We're on this one. We don't have many connections. There's only the two, the RCMP and this building here. So because of that, we think that we can get some pretty robust products. And with the robust products, you can't really go around corners. So everywhere the pipe takes a major turn, you would have to dig down and then go from there, and you would do it in shots. So that's likely the product we'll get, but again, we'll have to explore those products through the design phase, and certainly we'll discuss warranty when we're looking at those products.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and I guess if I may ask, it's more so just a high interest question. Is this one of those, are we likely looking at one of those products where they essentially take a liner and sort of blow it through an existing stretch of line and then it sort of cures in place? Is that the high level sort of product that we're looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
And some of them inflate into place and then harden like a resin. Others are pushed through in, longer rigid lengths. And so again, we'd have to look at the different products as we go through design.
And that's how I know I've hit my midlife stride, as I watch those things on Facebook and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I realize not everybody feels that way, but thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Councillor Stashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, another greatly technical question from council. The understanding was that the pipe was failing due to improperly installed or not installed at all cathodic protection. Is there going to be cathodic protection installed in conjunction with this to prolong the life of the exterior of the pipe, or does it simply rely on the liner?
Absolutely. Getting a long life, it would be dependent on slowing down that corrosion. Absolutely.
Okay, so the cathodic protection will be applied along with the liner.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. Councillor Magoon.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to take the recommended action that council approve the 2024 capital budget amendment consisting of $140,000 in design fees and $1.7 million in construction fees for the Switzer Drive Water Main Rehabilitation Project, the Switzer Booster Station to Robb/Mountain intersection, to come from the Water and Sewer Reserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Councillor hold on. The motion on the floor, council, is that council approve a 2024 capital budget amendment consisting of 140,000 design fees and 1.7 million construction fees for the Switzer Drive Water Main Rehabilitation Project. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. I mean, I'm in favor of this, but if we were to delay it, all that would do for said purposes is that the pipe would decay, decline, corrode even further, making this process unable to do it, I'm assuming too, right? Because the more that the pipe deteriorates, the less likely that a sleeve inside of it will be effective. Is that correct?
Mr. McLaughlin.
I would say everything you said is correct, but that would be the secondary concern. The first concern is the amount of water that we're losing, and we now pay per cube for our water.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I realize that. And, I just, if we're looking at this and can we wait? The answer, in my opinion, is we can't wait. We have to do this, or then we're looking at a larger cost and infrastructure expenses. So thank you. And I, again, will be in favor of this.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Magoon.
Yeah, just point of clarification, Mr. Mayor, that the recommended action includes the last portion after the end bracket to come from the water and sewer reserve.
That's fantastic point of clarification, Councillor Magoon. Secretary, can we get that added to the motion on the computer? Thank you. Any further discussion for this item from council while we wait that? Councillor Haas.
Yeah, not to the most, but I guess as we're doing this, is there a chance that there's other lines that could also be utilize this technology potentially? Is administration investigating that as well, so that there's other areas that could be that may have deteriorated or corroded pipes like this?
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you for the question. Through the mayor to all of council. We would look at this option in many cases because it doesn't disturb your surface infrastructure nearly as much. So this is an important project in that this line is such a major artery for our system. And so because of that, it makes sense for it to be one of the first lines we look at this option. But as we put together our 5-year plan, we would likely look at this option anytime, and it will be balanced with what's the condition of the other infrastructure in the area when making these decisions.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. The council approve a 2024 capital budget amendment consisting of 140,000 design fees and 1.7 million construction fees for the Switzer Drive Water Main Rehabilitation Project to come from the water and sewer reserves. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. This brings us to item 6.3 on our agenda, AUMA resolutions. CAO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor, through to the rest of council. I'm bringing this forward today to solicit some input from council on what we want to do when it comes to the upcoming Alberta municipalities resolution process. It's a great opportunity to put some of the issues that might be applicable to the town of Hinton, but also applicable to all the municipalities in Alberta, and getting that on the provincial advocacy stage. So we are here to have a discussion about what, if anything, we would like to put forward for that process. We're bringing it forward now because the deadline for everything to be complete is May 31st. And that is a long ways away, but the resolutions, we take great care in how we craft these, given the importance of them. There will also be an opportunity for the research involved, or that could be involved, to get a seconding municipality on board, get their input into the resolution. It all takes time and it's a process. So we wanted to bring this forward, solicit some input from council. Ultimately, whatever we select, staff will go off. We will create a report and a draft resolution for council's ultimate support through resolution. So with that said, we've put together a few options for council based on some discussion that we've heard over the last few years and some advocacy efforts that we've put forward in 2023 and early 2024. Those being the streamlining of Crown land acquisition process, the road closure timelines, provincial support for extreme weather warming shelters. These are just some that came to mind to administration, but it's certainly not limited to this. If there are any other ideas, we'd be happy to look at them and work with Alberta municipalities in drafting something to go forward. So with that said, I will turn it back over to council. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Seo Panasiak. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my question for administration, one of our discussion points the last time when we were talking about Crown land acquisition process. The question arose sort of at what level of work needs to be done by both administration and council to facilitate these motions going forward. And the only reason I ask that is I do have a notion for in addition to this as it relates to physician shortages in rural Alberta. But I don't want to necessarily put that forward, of course, without discussing it with council and having a full understanding of what the impact to administration's work schedule and or what sorts of impacts that has to council, especially if, you know, I think if you're going to put an idea forward, you have to be willing to step up, that sort of things.
Seo Panasiak.
Through the mayor to members of council, you know, we can certainly look at numerous resolutions. That's not that's certainly not undue hardship for administration. Along with that, at a future point in time, we will be looking for council to take an active role in this as well. You know, we can be on the technical side of things. We can provide the reports for council's adoption, but ultimately a member of council will likely be the speaker and the you know, the active voice for this topic at the provincial level. So we would look to appointing a member of council to be active in that role, as well as to possibly work with seconding municipalities or municipalities who may want to bring forward some amendments to that resolution. So there is, I think, a role on both sides, you know, but to start with, I think for administration, it would be doing the research, creating the report, working through Alberta municipalities to ensure that we get their sign off and their early endorsement of these resolutions to make sure it'll be successful at the convention process.
Thank you, Seo Panasiak. Councillor Magoon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's a little awkward because we are at regular council, but I'd like to float a motion forward and see if council supports it or not. That I suppose is the most appropriate procedure. I'd like to move that council direct administration to develop an Alberta municipalities resolution regarding physician shortages in Alberta for the 2024 convention. That if I may speak to that.
Please.
And I have to apologize to council. This was one of those things where it hit me honestly just earlier this week when I was going over some of the topics that we had previously discussed, acquisition of Crown land, those sorts of things. And I think pursuant to this, we have, you know, we formed a committee that already speaks to our concern on this area, but we know that this is not something that's strictly related to us as the town of Hinton, right? We're seeing these pressures on our neighboring communities, Jasper, Edson, when people without doctors and physicians have to go elsewhere and try to find treatment. And, you know, there's simply not the physicians available to take on their cases. So again, I'm putting this out there once it's a motion that it can be debated on, but I think it's something that it's widespread enough that it could get some good footing and support at AM. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. And before you close your mic, can you just verify that that is the motion that you're looking to put on the floor?
I would say regarding, oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor, regarding physician shortages in Alberta, please. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will certainly support this. It's a resolution that affects our entire province, not just some municipalities. So I'm all for this.
Thank you, Councillor Reyes. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not that I'm not in support of this. However, and this was something that actually was discussed at the earlier conference I was in this month, is we tend to focus on doctors, but there is a healthcare crisis in all departments of recruitment, not just doctors. Nurses, mental health, addictions, physio, you name it. Our rural communities are having a very difficult time recruiting all departments. And I really kind of would like to, I realize how doctors, are essential, yes, but without that supporting staff and the ones that are part of the team, then we can have as many doctors as we can have, and it's not still going to work. So I'd like to see a more broader look at what is our government or what is our provincial government doing to recruit healthcare. I see every day healthcare providers are leaving our province to go to other province to work. What are they doing to retain them, retention? And that's where I guess I'd like to see it broader and not just on one particular element of healthcare. So I don't know if if it's a possibility in this resolution and how to go about that. I get if you target one, it's probably much better, but I'm just afraid that we're putting all our eggs in one basket and we don't have the staff to support the doctors. So that's my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm fully in support of the motion that's before us. I think up until now, the province has basically just been leaving it up to municipalities to try and come up with attraction and retention programs. And unfortunately, ultimately, they kind of wind up being attempts at poaching doctors from other municipalities, which really doesn't serve anybody. It just winds up that place A steals from place B, which steals from place C. And I don't think that that's a solution. I think the province we need to communicate to the province that they have an obligation to make sure that they are finding a long-term viable solution to be able to bring doctors into Alberta and to be able to keep them there. I'm not a medical professional. I don't know what that looks like, but maybe that means finding places where there is a surplus of doctors and maybe changing the requirements that the Alberta College of Physicians has to license doctors in Alberta. I'm not sure, but it needs to be something more than just going, I don't know what to do about it, guys. You figure it out, and we just poach from our neighbors. That said, though, I do definitely support what Councillor Haas said and would support, and in fact, I'm actually going to make an amendment. I'd like to make an amendment to change positions to healthcare professionals. If I could speak to it.
Please.
I agree with Councillor Haas. I hear stories from people all the time about shortages of nurses, of other medical professionals. My wife's a nurse and she tells me all the time about how short the hospital is on nurses and the challenges that they face. So I think it's important to make sure that we're addressing everything, the whole gamut of healthcare professionals in Alberta. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. Excellent. And council, the motion on the floor is an amendment to the original motion. And the amendment is to change the wording so that it reads that council direct administration to develop a resolution regarding healthcare professional shortages in Alberta. Council, any discussion on the amendment? Seeing nothing, I'm going to throw in my 2 cents. I'm curious if we want to focus on healthcare professionals or if we want to focus on access to healthcare in rural Alberta communities. But I'll float that out there. And if there's no further discussion on the amendment, we will call the question on the amendment. not coming up for us. No, no, sorry. No. No. Thank you. No. No, thank you. No. Counselor Ostashik. Yeah,
Thank you,
it's up
Mr.
now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know it's kind of nitpicky, but it's not to add healthcare professionals, it's to change physicians to healthcare professionals.
Thank you, Counselor Ostashik. Okay, so the motion on the floor is the amendment and is to change physicians to healthcare professionals in the original motion. Counselor Haas.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to, I think Mayor Nissen was correct. I think access, but I'm hoping that access is part of this. Is there other alternatives to different types of access to healthcare professionals that may not be right here in our community, but they could be virtual, they could be, other options. So I'm hoping that with this resolution, bringing it to him, that those will be captured in that as well, I believe, because currently we already have some access virtually or other options. So it's just expanding that, I think, and the availability, because I know for my own experience in healthcare, to see a psychiatrist, for example, virtually is anywhere from 6 months to a year wait in our community because we don't have enough psychiatrists in our province. So I'm hoping that will also be captured in that resolution so that they could consider what those options look like. So just wanted to say that, but I'm definitely in favor of this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Haas. Council, any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question on the amendment to change physicians to healthcare professionals in the original motion. Councilors, please vote now. Favor or against? That's okay. Counselor Ostashik voting by hand in favor, and that motion is carried unanimously. That brings us back to the original motion, now amended. Can we see that up on the screen, please? While we're waiting, Counselor Magoon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just again, I want to thank council for the amendment. I think it makes the initial motion stronger. So I'm certainly appreciative of the input. And this is just one of those things where I think it's important to put up or not. And so if there is any heavy lifting that needs to be done, early on, I'm happy to help however I can because this is an important topic to people in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Magoon. So council, the motion on the floor is that council direct administration to develop a resolution regarding healthcare professional shortages in Alberta. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing nothing, we will call the question. Councilors, please vote now. And Counselor Stashik voting in favor by hand. And that motion is carried unanimously. Counselor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a motion to make, and I'm making this motion on behalf of Councillor Taylor. That council direct administration to develop a Alberta municipalities resolution regarding the creation of a municipal wildfire prevention committee for the 2024 convention.
Thank you, Counselor Race.
If I could just speak briefly on that.
Please.
I realize that the province has come up with a drought committee. They have that right now, and they may come up with a wildfire committee, but if they don't, we will have this resolution before AM. And one more thing I just wanted to read. I promised Councillor Taylor I would read it. The increasing frequency and intensity of wildfires in our region presents a clear and present danger to all of our communities. And this, what I'm reading right now, is a letter or a part of a letter that was written to Minister Lowen in December from our council. Presents a danger to our communities, natural resources, and our way of life. We assert that transitioning from the Mountain Pine Beetle Control Committee to a Wildfire Prevention Committee is not just a prudent choice, but an imperative one. We believe that by prioritizing fire prevention, we address the root cause of the immediate and long-term threats of our beloved province. So I would hope that council would support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Hawes. Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
Can we see the motion? Secretary. Thank you. The motion on the floor, Council, is that Council direct administration to develop an Alberta Municipalities resolution regarding the creation of a municipal wildfire prevention committee for the 2024 convention. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not that I'm not against this, but I have a question to administration first. And Councillor Race mentioned about a drought committee and that there may be one for wildfires. Is administration aware of the province or, you know, developing some sort of committee? And the reason I ask is because if they are, I would hesitate to task administration with putting a resolution together that may already be in the works of being developed. So I'm looking to administration if they have any knowledge of that.
CEO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I would say that at this point, I'm not aware of a specific committee that would be tasked of what we had requested through the letter that we issued in 2023 that had more to do with integrating municipalities into wildfire prevention and learning from the experience of these municipalities and preparing. But it very much was from a municipal lens. I'm not familiar with anything similar, but as a part of our research, really the first thing that we're going to be doing as a part of this is we're going to be talking to Alberta municipalities, ensuring that number one, that there are no resolutions outstanding on a similar item. I don't believe there is. I've been checking on the fly the resolution library. It looks like we're okay on both ends, but ensuring that no member is looking to bring forward something similar and to make sure that there's not anything else out there that might suit our needs on these as well. So, you know, that'll be our first step, is to look into the feasibility of them. And if for some reason we determine that you know, any one of those possibilities are in play, then we will be coming back to council for further direction. So we will not be going off and creating the resolution prior to that initial research.
Okay, if I may then.
Please.
I really appreciate that clarification, knowing that that is part of the steps. You know, and hoping we also learn from that too, that bring back if it's not necessary because it's already happening or something's happening. So I really appreciate that. So based on that, and that step is included, then I definitely am in support of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, any further discussion on the motion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question that Council direct administration to develop an Alberta Municipalities resolution regarding the creation of a municipal wildfire prevention committee for the 2024 convention. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, do we have anything further for item 6.3 on the agenda? Seeing nothing, we'll move to section 7, correspondence. Chambers.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, this was with the Alberta Municipalities resolution. Am I still good to speak to that?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion that council direct administration to develop Alberta municipalities resolution regarding provincial support for temporary extreme weather warming shelters for the 2024 convention. And if I may speak to that, I really feel like this could potentially be a low-hanging fruit. It's something that could be very easily, well, theoretically, easily dealt with, spoke about, and could really make a large impact, especially in the rurals. And I don't know if it needs to say rural specifically, but I think that those larger solutions aren't necessarily, while they're great, they take time. There's a lot of moving parts, and I think that this is a way that the province can have a impactful, make an impact in the smaller communities as we try to navigate some of these bigger conversations. So I think it's again, low hanging fruit. I think it's an easy win, and it would certainly help, as we all went through this just recently. I do believe there would be a great impact if they could do something like this. And again, to CAO Panasik's point, I would be interested to know, is there something out there that we just weren't aware of that we should be applying for? I know we sent a letter to MLA Long, but is there something out there that we should have been accessing? Is someone else bringing up something similar? So again, to the further points, just don't want to do any duplicate work, but I do feel this is really valuable to bring forward from a rural Alberta homelessness crisis standpoint.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. And can we see that on the screen, please? So council, the motion on the floor is that council direct administration to develop a resolution to Alberta municipalities to develop support for temporary warming shelters. And I believe she listed in the 2024 season. Councillor Chambers, can you confirm that that is the motion that you are looking for?
I can't see it.
Of course you can't.
I
I'll read it verbatim for you, and you
Okay.
can correct me if there's a problem. The motion is that council direct administration to develop a resolution to Alberta municipalities to develop support for temporary warming shelters for the 2024 season.
Temporary extreme weather warming stations, and for the 2024 convention, not the season, that we're bringing it to the convention, not the winter.
That makes more sense than what I said. Like temporary support for extreme weather, temporary warming shelters. Extreme weather should be before temporary, I imagine. Extreme weather. Problem. And then the last word, season, is actually supposed to be convention. Okay, Councillor Chambers, listen up. Confirm that this is the motion you're looking for. It is that council direct administration to develop a resolution to Alberta municipalities to develop support for temporary extreme weather warming shelters for the 2024 convention.
That is correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be speaking in favor of this. I think that we've had this issue for many years. Temporary things have at last minute been developed, but it really is the province's responsibility. It's not the municipalities, and I know other municipalities have attempted, but unfortunately, haven't found a solution yet. And a lot of it is because it's not our responsibility, and it takes a lot of liability issues and other things of concerns. So I'd be in favor of this, and hopefully, I'm certain that our neighboring, I don't want to volunteer, but Edson would probably also be interested in this, because they've also attempted things that just didn't work out. So, and I think it's also the good timing, the fact that we had this season where we want to start this conversation early for our own community, and having this as a resolution in the fall convention is just, I think, a good step in that direction. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, any other discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question that council direct administration to develop a resolution to Alberta municipalities to develop support for temporary extreme weather warming shelters for the 2024 convention. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Race,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for administration.
go ahead.
So to CAO, in regards to the Crown land acquisitions, has the process changed in the last 10, 15 years? You know,
CEO Panasiuk.
Through the mayor to members of council, I believe the regulations surrounding Crown land acquisition changed in about 2010, and it's been much the same ever since. But prior to 2010, the Crown land acquisition specific to municipalities, I think, was essentially sold for $1 for legitimate municipal use. I believe roughly 14 years ago, that policy was changed for the Crown land to be acquired by municipalities at the same rate, or really at the appraised or market value of the land. So that is the last regulatory change that I'm familiar with. And, you know, I am not a historian on Crown land regulations, but actually this is that precise issue was brought forward by the town of Hinton in 2010. So that's why I'm familiar with what happened then. So, but since then, I'm not familiar with it. We can certainly look at other opportunities when it comes to Crown land acquisition other than purchasing. You know, it doesn't have to be through an Alberta municipalities resolution, but it is something that we can have a keen eye on going forward.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, is there anything further for item 6.3 on the agenda? Seeing nothing, we'll move to section 7, correspondence. Councillor Haas.
I had to move to accept the correspondence for this meeting. Yeah,
Correspondence for information.
for information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is that council accept all correspondence for information. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Brings us to section 8 of our agenda this evening, notices of motion. CEO Panasiuk, are there any notices of motion today?
Through the mayor, no, I do not have it.
Thank you, CEO Panasiuk. We'll move on to section 9 of the agenda, reporting and council reports. We'll start with Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mayor. My most exciting part of the last week was I was invited to go with MLA Long to the legislature for the throne speech on the budget. It was a really excellent experience. We got to spend quite a bit of time in the rotunda visiting with some of the different ministers, talking about the community. There was a lot of great stuff said by many of the ministers that they just recently had their caucus in Jasper. There was Hinton businesses that had contributed to welcome bags for the different ministers, and they all had a lot to say about it, which was great. It definitely seems to be a good news budget, and looking forward to see how that rolls out on many fronts, but was a wonderful opportunity, and very happy I was able to represent Hinton there. And that's
Thank
it.
you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing to report.
Thank you, Councillor Ostashik. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to report.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to report on committees, but I do want to shout out, I saw last night that our Hinton School of Dance is hopefully with fundraising, sending 19 of our dancers to dance at Disneyland in December of 2024 in a parade. I thought that was exciting. So I just wanted to put a shout out there. And there is some fundraising happening on Facebook. So if you're interested, take a look. And I can't remember the company that they're using, but you can purchase some things that'll go to helping fund these 19 dancers to go to Disneyland. But I thought something very exciting, something different, something that, you know, gets our name out there in the wonderful, magical world of Disney. So that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. And the dancers did a great job on our Christmas parade. And I'm sure that Disneyland will be much warmer and they'll do a much better job. Councillor Race.
Thank you, sir. Nothing to report.
Thank you, Councillor Race. And for myself, I would like to inform Hinton that and council that our flags will be flown half-mast until March 23rd at sunset in honor of former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. And that is all the reporting I have this evening. Chief Administrative Officer reporting. CAO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report.
Thank you, CAO. That concludes section 9 of our agenda. We can move on. Section 10 has been removed. So on to adjournment. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adjourn.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, the motion on the floor is that we adjourn. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried. The meeting is adjourned at 5.